in 2015, 2016 when Donald Trump first got into the race way back when. All right, for more on RFK Jr.'s big announcement, let's bring in the president and partner at McLaughlin and Associates and pollster for the Trump 2020 campaign, Jim McLaughlin.
Also joining us today, again, is former Deputy Press Secretary at the White House, Hogan Gidley. Good morning, gentlemen.
Good to see you both. Hogan, nice to see you again. Jim, good to have you back. I want to start with you. So Kennedy launches this bid yesterday. By the way, I couldn't believe that nobody from outside of his immediate family was there. His mom, Ethel, Bobby's late widow, she was not there. Joe Kennedy, his nephew who served in Congress for 6 years, not there. So he launches this bid. USA Today, Suffolk University come out with a poll. He's at 14%. What does that tell you about Joe Biden's popularity?
Well, what we've seen all along, he only gets about a quarter of the Democratic vote right now, Rob. So he's got a problem. This is Joe Biden in the multi-candidate field. Because what you have is you have about 3/4 of the Democratic primary voters that are looking for somebody else besides Joe Biden. And even though on the surface, somebody like Robert Kennedy Jr. might not be the best candidate in the world, I think the Biden folks have circled the wagons on him. I'm sure they told all the Kennedys, we don't want you there. We've got a candidate who's weak. And they're scared. They're worried about this is going to open things up because you have these other candidates right now, like Governor Phil Murphy. You also have somebody like Gavin Newsom. They're running shadow campaigns for all intents and purposes, waiting for Joe Biden to get out of this race.
Yeah, Hogan, that 14% probably because of Biden's approval rating. So this comes as a Reuters Ipsos poll shows President Biden's public approval rating. It's fallen to 39%. This is the lowest level of his presidency yet. Not a surprise, I'm sure, but obviously this is good. It could go even lower.
It could, and in large measure, that's because of Joe Biden's horrific failures across the board, both domestically and internationally. Look, this announcement is big for many reasons, not the least of which is that it's a Kennedy. I would argue, though, the Kennedy name doesn't carry quite the cachet it used to because it's been quite some time since the Kennedy has been in. It's been a minute since the Kennedys have held political power, and a lot of the things you hear about the Kennedys over the years hasn't been good either. But for Kennedy here to have 14% already does show some cracks in the dam of the Joe Biden wall. But I would also say that this is going to be a classic example of, I think, of where these two men are going to be cordial in public, but privately these stories are going to start to leak out about how visceral and how angry and how furious these camps are at each other. And you're going to see some serious backbiting, I think, in the days ahead, because if Kennedy goes after the corruption of the Biden family, that's where I think it's really going to set
He's already hinted at that.
And we've got a request out to him. I'll just say he suffers from a vocal condition. That's why he speaks that way. 69 years old. It's so fascinating to me, Jim, just as somebody that loves history. The last Democrat to primary a sitting Democratic president was Ted Kennedy. All right. His uncle, Jimmy Carter, 1980, didn't work out too well for Ted Kennedy. Didn't work out too well for Jimmy Carter, though. I want to turn to this glass half full poll out of New Hampshire a day ago. So this is the Washington Post reporting this UNH poll shows that Trump, DeSantis, and all the other candidates, Trump's up 53% to 33%. When they're head to head, it's only 20 points. And they're trying to say that's a good thing. And I say, how's that a good thing? Remember 1988? Dukakis up by 17 points over George H.W. Bush. He ended up winning the election, George H.W. Bush. What do you make of that? The Washington Post is trying to say, hey, 20 points isn't so bad.
Look, the Washington Post has shown who they are. One of the things I've always said about Donald Trump, one of the reasons why he's as popular as he is, because he has all the right enemies. And one of those major enemies is the news media. And the news media is going to do everything they can in their power to try to beat Donald Trump. And look, I think it's going to backfire because just as Donald Trump always does, he's going to wind up using this to his advantage right now. And the interesting part is there were a lot of folks saying that once it became a two-way race, that it was going to hurt Donald Trump. But the truth of the matter is we're seeing he's gaining more votes. In our last poll nationally, he gained more votes in a two-way race versus Ron DeSantis than Ron DeSantis did.
Yeah. Yeah. They say a week, though, is a lifetime
It
in
is.
politics.
And Trump ratings do really well with Trump.
But
You saw that.
they'll ebb and flow. This whole thing, we got a long, long way to go. If a week is a lifetime, what's 20 months, right? An eternity, maybe?
Yeah.
Jim, good to see you, Hogan. We'll pick this back up in a few minutes. Appreciate it. Lots more coming.